Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on Boxing Day, spending the entire day by myself with all the small chores and all those things that set us up for the week ahead, all completed. I have been in contemplation. I have been taking in lessons. I'm a little punch drunk, and it has been productive in that way. So I don't mind putting in that work, and it is work because I'm trying to make some movement for myself, right? But at the same time, knowing if I can make that movement, that just might be the evidence for possibly somebody else deciding to take that action, right? Making that movement themselves. And it's going to look a little bit different than what I'm doing because you probably don't want to be doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, right? I'm a unique also. And I don't probably want to be doing what you're doing either. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for popping in tonight. Oh my goodness, it's Boxing Day. Did you have an enjoyable Christmas, Andrew? Did you have an enjoyable Christmas this year? I had a quiet Christmas, but I still was entertaining. I was still keeping company and doing things outside of what I would normally be doing, which again, as I explained when I popped in today, I was in it deep. I was making lots of notes here. Oh, I had to Google another word today, a word that I should have known a long time ago, right? Just it just seems strange sometimes how these words that, like this word empath, that at 57 years old, I finally got a definition. A definition for something that had molded and created me and programmed me and stumped me and amazed me and saved me and has me sitting here right now having these kind of conversations, right? And it amazes me that some of these words that make such an impact in my life or should have just been kind of hidden. I feel like they've been hidden from me because, right, I heard this word empath floating around, right, during the course of my life, probably since I was a teenager or a young adult at the very least. But I always associated it with being able to relate to other people's emotions, to be able to feel their sadness and their happiness, their joys, sense when they had problems and stuff. I thought this was something everybody had, right? I thought, oh, right? I've got great intuition, right? I'm very empathic, but I didn't actually understand that it was an actual label for a certain personality. I'm going to call it a personality because it is something that's created. It's something that we're taught. It's something that we pick up. It's something that we learn. So when we have this word this week, the word we picked yesterday is thoughtfulness. So we'll see if Andrew has anything to say on the topic. I'm sure he does. He's a very, very smart man and he always has such amazing insights to share with us. But let's just go into the comments here and see what he has to say. It was a quiet day at home base. My knees were sore, so I had churches on live stream. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Andrew, because I know you would have probably really enjoyed going to church. Christmas Day too, right? Or midnight mass on Christmas Eve. Well, you were with me on Christmas Eve, weren't you? Well, not literally with me, but literally with me, because I had my Christmas live show, and Andrew is one of my moderators. He chats just as much, if not more, than I do, but he does it all in writing, and he's a much better writer than I am too. But let's quickly look at this. I first encountered the word empath on the TV series Star Trek, The Next Generation. I thought the word was created for the show. Isn't that interesting, Andrew? So that information seems to have kind of bypassed you also. And isn't it funny, because I was a big Star Trek fan, a huge Star Trek fan. I'm probably seen that episode that you're talking about a half a dozen times, right? At least I right, they were all reruns. The original Star Trek wasn't around for very long, but my mother loved Star Trek, and we watched a lot of Star Trek, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. But isn't it strange? And I always thought that empathy just meant, being able to sympathize with somebody. That's how I took it. I didn't understand it as an actual label of an actual kind of human being until I was 57 years old. And that's the honest truth. I'm 62 now, and I've been doing some peddling in this because it's been answering a lot of questions, a lot of problems that I had growing up as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, even as a mature adult, right? When I made this discovery of this label that I had misinterpreted and misunderstood, my whole world just it brightened up. But at the same time as it brightened up, it darkened up, because I beat myself up because I didn't have a true definition of this word empath. Highly sensitives. Highly sensitives. You may know yourself as a codependent, right? You may know yourself as well, because we are so in touch with our emotions, and it comes from that hypervigilance in us. It comes from trauma, right? It comes from trauma. It comes because we pay attention. And it's funny because, the ADHD is all connected to trauma. But that condition, you're not paying attention to anything because you're just all over the place and you can't sit still. With me, oh my goodness. I do get up lots, but some of the content that I take in, some of the lessons that I take in are like 2-3 hours long. And to be able to sit and actually not just understand it, but actually enjoy it, for me, I'm thinking that's pretty kick butt, because these are, maybe I'm not going to say not topics that I would have been interested in as a young adult. It was because, right, these kind of topics, I wasn't even sure. I didn't even understand that they were pertinent to the human being that I was. Took a lot of lessons from a lot of different thought leaders, and you might not know what that terminology is, but it does come from trauma. It comes from our hypervigilance, right? So we move with our emotions. We study, and we spend a lot of our times as spectators and as students, right? And we pay attention. We're constantly paying attention because we want to know where that next shoe's going to drop, don't we? Okay, so we're just going to tie it in because we are talking about thoughtfulness this week, but maybe we can tie it into what I was kind of studying today. But let's just get right into here. Oh, Andrew has an insight on thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is so important. Etiquette, right? Emily Post said, etiquette is a sensitive consideration for the feelings of others. If you have that, it really doesn't matter what fork you use. Isn't that interesting that you dished out that quote here? I'm in the process of reading this book here. It's a antique book. It's called Herbert Carter's Legacy. Horatio Alger Jr. had written it. And this one is specifically through that. It's showing how there's two very wealthy boys. One comes from a father who had nothing and he built himself up. The other one is the son of a man who made his money on the backs of others. And the third boy is the backs of others, right? And the one boy whose father had accumulated the money on the backs of others treated the poor boy just very, very badly. But one boy whose father had brought himself up in the world, right? He had such an understanding and a consideration for the poor boy, and the poor boy actually had etiquette and values which outshone, right? So the rich boy, right, who looked down on the poor boy, yes, he dressed well, he went to good schools, he had a little pocket change in his pocket. He actually had a canoe. He actually had a canoe, and he's constantly looking down on people. And you have to think, because this one boy who's the poor boy, because of his politeness, because of his thoughtfulness, because of his etiquette around others, no matter what their level or status is in society, right? He treated people well no matter what. And he didn't particularly like this one boy. He always treated him badly, but he always treated him, um, well, how he would be treated himself. Values that his mother had taught him, right? Values. I move along in my values. I have to move along with my values because I don't have in this moment, not saying that's not going to happen. I'm delving, right? And I understand, right? I can have a realization into that story at any moment, but in this moment, I do not have any religious or spiritual foundations. I'm going to say that. I have ideas, but I don't have foundations. So, in order for me to move about in this world where I can get along with people, where I can build and belong to other communities, right? I move with thoughtfulness. And so this was kind of the perspective that I was thinking that we would come at it, because as empaths and as highly sensitives, our self-worth, our value, how we think about ourselves comes directly from what other people think of us, just like I was saying in this book. And it takes a strong man. It takes a man solid in his values and in his boundaries. We do have to build boundaries as empaths, right? And these are kind of, for us, the rules, right? Because we let our boundaries be crossed constantly. We can beat ourselves up because we're not supposed to be complaining and whining and complaining and, right, grumbling about the things that are not working for us. So we don't, but at the same time, all that stuff stays inside of us, and it just festers, 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 festers. And for me, when these things happen, I like to get it out of the system right away. I don't like anything sitting inside of me. It's kind of like that house bill that you're supposed to pay, and you're putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But it drives you absolutely crazy because it's not leaving your mind. It's not getting paid, but it's not leaving your mind, and it's ruining every step in the movement of your day or possibly your week. And if you skip the whole month and you could fall behind, can you imagine the stress in all of that, right? So tying the thoughtfulness, and then we'll just come back into some comments here because, like I said, Andrew yaps more than I do. And where did we leave off there? Okay, like he said, Andrew said, I first encountered the word empath on the TV series Star Trek, The Next Generation. I thought the word was created for the show. Isn't that interesting? I don't remember that episode at all, Andrew, but that is super, super interesting. And it really compounds that idea that, sometimes we're supposed to move through our lives and not wake up to some of these ideas. And when we are woken up to some of these ideas, it's that evidence, like what's going on, right? We're obviously woken up for a reason. We actually have these understandings for a reason. And the miracles of finally getting some answers, that all happens for the reasons. And what do we do with that? We munch on that. We run with that, right? And we search out the answers, but in the creation of the best human being we possibly can, right? I truly believe that the empaths, because they move with their emotions, because they're paying attentions, because they spend most of their life as spectators and as students and unaware. So if you're unaware of all of what we're digging into now, you have that, I'm not saying option, I'm going to say that naivety, that innocence to go off and adventure and experience and not be, right, stressing yourself out about being a highly sensitive and being empath. I didn't even know what those things were. So, right. And of course I heard growing up all through my life, oh, you're just too sensitive, right? You're just too sensitive. But that's what I thought it was. I just thought I was too sensitive, right? But I didn't realize that being too sensitive offered up potentials in that. And oh boy, did they offer up potentials for me a little bit late, right? Maybe not. I'm still digging. I'm still digging into it, and I'm still going to make that movement to the best of my ability, because I know whatever I can take on, whatever those other parts of me can learn in, right? And they learned, believe me, they learned through experiences, and I'm grateful that they stayed through me through those experiences, because I really thought I went through those experiences all by myself. I didn't mean to drag the empath in me through, well, the created empath, because we are creative. I could have been something else. You know what I mean? I could have understood myself a little bit differently. But at the same time, right? I might not have ever known. I might not have ever discovered what that word empath was. And that would have shot me off in another direction, if any direction at all, right? I was 57 years old, and the most impactful word that could possibly change my life, it was a blank in my life right up until I was 57 years old. Right? Things probably started churning before that, before I knew anything was churning. I was 57 years old. So let's come back into those comments there and see what Andrew's got yapping right here. From above, I had my church's service on the live stream. Awesome. Thoughtfulness, like he said, is so important. Etiquette, right? Emily Post said, etiquette is a sensitive consideration for the feelings of others. If you have that, it really doesn't matter what fork you use. And this is how I move forward. I said just a little bit earlier, how I move with my values, not having that rootedness in any religion or any foundational spiritual ideas, right? That I'm running with my intellect. I'm running with my intellect. Right? But hey, it's that movement. And at some point, you have to recognize and have to acknowledge where that movement and that direction is going. And even if I'm not at that destination in the moment, right? I know, maybe I don't even know what the route is, but I know I'm on route, right? I know I'm on route. And so we got this word thoughtfulness this week. And so I thought I would attach it to being an empath because, right, we do a lot of giving of ourselves. And not only that, we do a lot of holding for others, right? And that's doing also, that's an action also, whether it's just being a shoulder for somebody to cry on, being an ear for somebody, right? Who's having a hard time, needs to get some stuff off their chest. Sometimes it's just a matter of sitting beside somebody while somebody's having their own moment, right? And sometimes it's just having a comfort of another body close by you while you're having that moment, right? Nobody wants that feeling that they're just about to fall apart. And that's all in that thoughtfulness, all growing up in my childhood, my teenage years, my young adulthood. These thoughtfulnesses came across my path. Sometimes it was a teacher that thought that they might invest a little bit of time, had a few ideas how they could move me along or teach me a little bit confidence. And sometimes it worked. I had an English teacher slash PE teacher who made me join the drama class, who made me take a book and read a book and stand in front of the class every time I read a book and explain the book and the story to people. And it was a way for me to break some of those insecurities because, I was very introverted. I was very shy. I was very withdrawn. I was very afraid of everybody, right? Wasn't afraid of everything. I wasn't afraid of the inanimate. I wasn't afraid of mother nature. I wasn't afraid of working. I wasn't, right? What I was afraid of was that lack of etiquette in other people, right? That lack of thoughtfulness in other people, and a way for me to avoid, right? That lack of thoughtfulness, we're going to just say, right? Whether it was the bullying or the unkindnesses come around, it was to overcome myself and create myself in a more acceptable way, right? And so I would stumble over myself to be accommodating to others, right? Those small kindnesses to give to others, but those kindnesses were a little bit different in the way I was doing. It wasn't like, when my English teacher thought she would give me a hand and help me get some courage to be able to present in front of people, or to be able to speak with confidence, or to be able to actually hold my own in an acting class, right? That's a little bit different than trying to. We've been talking about it this week about buffering bad situations. And I think for the most part of my life, that's what I was doing. I was stumbling over myself to do kindnesses for others, to have these small thoughtnesses and stuff, but it was only in a self-preservation way. It wasn't because I thought I could be of help to somebody. I was just avoiding conflict. I was trying to buffer a situation where it could turn on me and somebody would be mean to me or say something that would make me feel terrible, right? Whether it was about myself or anybody else, or force me into a situation that I would have to break one of my dad's rules, which was turn the other cheek, because he always told me turn the other cheek. And I wasn't a big believer in turn the other cheek, because when you turn the other cheek, you're allowing somebody who's done something, right, unethical, unkind, unthoughtful, permission to go off and do it again because they got away with it once, right? And maybe and probably they didn't get away with it just that once with you. It's just part of their nature, right? But I didn't realize my part in that. I didn't realize, how I would stumble over myself to appease other people, to make myself more acceptable to people, right? To help me be seen, help me to be heard, but also in my ideas, now that I'm treading water, right? To understand what thoughtfulness truly is. And, Andrew is 100% in that quote, right? Etiquette is a sensitive consideration for the feelings of others. If you have that, it really doesn't matter what fork you use, right? Because if you don't have anything nice to say, we really shouldn't say anything all at all. And even though, like I'm very forward in the way that I talk, but for somebody who is super, super, super sensitive, right? We say, get to work, or right, find a project, or I'll find one for you. I do this at work all the time, right? This could be a little bit, right? A little bit emotionally stressful. So we always try, because that guilt and shame will come in when you do that, because you would like people just to know their jobs on their own. But because of my own insecurities, because of my own sense of self-worth, it's very important for me, right? It's why I work with the empaths. It's why I hang out with the entrepreneurs, because right, I think we're supposed to be our own bosses, because it's really, really, really hard to build networks and surround ourselves with people consistently who understand this word thoughtfulness for what it really, really is, right? It's the gifts that we give each other. That's what thoughtfulness is. It's how we can boost each other in our emotions, just like those teachers when they took that interest in me and I got my first A in gym. No doubt I was the worst person in physical education. I was that one who was hiding in the tennis courts until everybody finished their run, and everybody expected me to be last. And then as soon as they come back to the gym from their run, I'd just get at the end of the line and I'd run into the gym, and nobody knew. Right? I did that for years. And seriously, just walking, running around that one block back into the gym, I looked like I had run a 3 or 4 mile run in those days, imperial measurements still, right? 3 or 4 mile run. But we did that every gym class. And then finally, I took an interest in class because my teacher took an interest in me. My teacher saw me. My teacher heard me, and my teacher, in her own thoughtfulness, because she wasn't getting paid any extra to stay after school and hang out with me or spend any extra time watching what the other girls were doing in the gym dressing room and stuff, and picking on me, and just, I really, once I felt like, I wasn't in it by myself, right? And that came from thoughtfulness from others, because when you feel like you're in it just by yourself, it can be a scary thing. It can stop you from showing up. I am grateful for some of those experiences. And like I said, I could have easily been asleep for all of it. Right, right. And we know how people just live their lives from day to day to day and don't have a clue about any of these kind of conversations that we should be having, each one of us. This word empath, it should have come across my path as a small child. Oh, it would have done me so much good. And you know what? Might have done my father good. I'm not quite sure, even if I knew My father was woke to these ideas. He was, but this terminology, empath, right? It might have explained a lot of his problems for himself, right? My father moved our family forward, definitely. But, right, as his children, we have to pick up that baton, right? In that thoughtfulness and consideration of the work that came before me in my own family, right? In that bloodline. And who's to say if we're going to just continue to move forward together, right? But in that thoughtfulness, we can try, right? We can try. And sometimes it's just letting somebody know they're doing a good job, right? Sometimes it's holding a door for somebody. As simple as that. Holding a door for somebody. Saying thank you, recognizing that little bit of extra customer service somebody gives you, right? Getting to know somebody's name, right? Especially if you've met them more than once, right? Sending out those Christmas cards, like we said yesterday, right? Those are all thoughtfulnesses, right? But those aren't always considerations of everybody. And as empaths, right? It's wonderful that we do that. But we have to make sure that we're surrounding ourselves with people that make us feel the same way, that make us feel like we're seen and we're heard too, right? Because if they're not, then maybe we're running with the wrong crew. And I don't run. Well, you can run with me if you anybody can run with me. You'll have to keep up though, because I'm a pretty good peddler. Okay. Come down here. Andrew says, I saw a video that talked about people who have been abused by narcissists get very good at reading people. But yeah, narcissists are also empaths too, right? But that's the thing. We have to pick up on the thoughtfulnesses. And in you, Andrew, you also know some of those difficulties and some of those personal relationships that I have that sometimes, you got to understand the difference between a thoughtfulness and a gift with expectation, right? Because sometimes in thoughtfulness, there is no expectation. You're doing a kindness. You might not even get it. You might not even get a thank you, right? You might not even get a look of acknowledgement of whatever kindness or whatever thoughtfulness that you brought to the table, right? That's 100%. But the thing is, you have to be paying attention. And for me, I wasn't paying attention. I'm paying attention now, right? I'm paying attention now. But it just seems now I'm not just paying attention for myself. I have to pay attention for others because there's so many people that are absolutely clueless, right? Absolutely clueless, that they don't understand that some of these kindnesses, that people, right, they do for you, that, right, there is a bit of an expectation, right? You rub my back, I rub you, right? You subscribe to me, I'll subscribe to you. You give me the thumbs up, you give me the like, right? I'll do the same for you, right? So we have to learn. And we are spectators. And because we understand and we move with our emotions, right? Even the people that we trust, we have to feel them out, because a gift with an expectation is totally 100% looks the same as a thoughtfulness quite often, but there is no expectation in a thoughtfulness, but there's an expectation quite often in a gift. And that's the truth. And right. And it all comes in the lessons. It all comes in through those conversations and and through those experiences that we have. But it's also in the understanding of who we are, right? Who I am. Because thoughtfulness, right? For me, it would have been some of those lessons that my dad taught me, right? Say your please and thank yous. Get your elbow off the table. Hold the door for somebody, right? And the thing is, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that. And we got to really pay attention. We really have to pay attention because some things look the same, but the outlook or the result, mm-mm, they're totally different. And that was a lesson I had to learn. And it is a painful lesson, but I think if you catch it soon enough, right, there's an opportunity for a little bit of course correction. At least that's in my wishes, right? That's what I'm optimistic that it will do. That a lot of these understandings that I now have, that somebody who might be totally clueless in the moment might have their moment, and that will get them on the right track of understanding, right? That they can make a little bit of movement themselves, right? And there are other people out there willing to help you along 100%. I get help every single day, right? There's a lesson for everything out there. It's just a matter of what are you interested in, right? What makes you happy? What makes you smile, right? What would you like to be doing in order to put a roof over your head if you wanted to be your own boss, right? To be able to be a little bit stronger, a little bit braver, be able to stand on your own 2 feet rather than relying on somebody else, right? To give you what you need, as long as you give them what they need. Okay, last little bit of comments here, and then we're going to call it a night. Oh, Sharon's here. Hello, Sharon. Thank you so much for your lovely message. That was so sweet of you. Thank you. Okay, I don't know what it's like now, but gym class used to be one of the most destructive things a student could experience. I tell you, gym class demoralized me, right? Having to wear shorts, being the only obese girl in my high school, right? Being always stuffed into a school in the middle of a year and not being able to be settled enough in order to be able to settle into some, even if it's just casual relationships, right? But at the same time, it's in our choices, and it's in those acceptances or those denials of those opportunities and of those small thoughtfulnesses that come across our paths, like those teachers who thought they were going to help me out. And they, like I said, some of them did, but also some of them caused me to fall further backwards, right? And that was that breaking up the trust. And that's the one thing if I could stress enough to the teachers, if a child is brave enough to tell you what's going on with them, whether it's with the other school kids or what's going on at home, right? And especially if it's a narcissistic or dynamic family, that you can catch the hint of this if you're highly sensitive or if you're empathic, that you can sense something. Keep that trust with the child, right? Don't pull the family in, because I was programmed not to say anything, but sometimes that pain was so bad, sometimes that confusion as to why, right, I wasn't welcomed, or why I wasn't accepted, or why I had to go through what I had to go through, or why I wasn't loved, like, right, my sisters were loved. That sometimes we do break down and we do reach out, because right now I know talking crying time. I didn't know it back then. talking was a very dangerous thing for me. Because if my mother got whiff, right? You keep your family matters in the household. You don't discuss them with strangers, right? My mother would have dealt with whoever she had to dealt with, whether it was a counselor or a teacher or a principal, right? She'd go in and have that conversation. But I tell you, I was in it big when she got home. And believe me, it would be a very long time before I opened up to another teacher and, right, told them what was going on with me in the hopes that maybe I could get some solace in my life, right? Because, right, keep that trust, keep the trust with the kids, because they'll continue to talk and they'll continue to trust. But if you, right, if you break that trust, it's going to be hard to crack them open, right? Maybe like me, they might not wake up to any of these ideas till they were 57 years old. Okay. um Cindy, way back on Saturday Night Live, there was a mini movie called La Dolce Gilda. Gilda Radner said, "Dreams are like paper, they tear so easily." Right? I'm pretty steadfast in my dreams. Oh my goodness. I would be like glue. I would be like duct tape. Oh my goodness. The last minuscule piece of scrap. It would be in between two plates on a microscope plate, and I would be saving it and putting it in formaldehyde. Whatever I had to do, right? To save my dreams. It's how I saved my brand. 100%. Yeah. If it wasn't for my steadfast, if it wasn't for my stubbornness, it wasn't for my beliefs and optimism and that realization that why other people have done it, I can too, right? But it's going to be in my choices. Then it gets done, and then there isn't any giving up. There isn't any, well, right, collateral damage. There's always collateral damage, but the collateral damage is usually, you know, with those first few tries, like Elon Musk trying to get the rocket up into space, right? He almost lost it all 100%, but in the end, he succeeded, right? Okay. Sydney, that reminds me of a term I learned recently, the gift of giving. Oh my goodness, right? That's just, isn't it an amazing feeling to be able to help somebody who's a little bit misfortunate? If even just in that one moment, that one circumstance, right? That we can alleviate somebody's stress, somebody's worries. It's an amazing. I try to do something every day, and that's not the empath in me. That's the journey in me. That's the realizations. Those are the lessons. That's now a part of my life going going forward, and that's absolutely amazing, right? I try to give every day. And I would have to say, you guys, and like this is the discouraging part of it, for the most part, it's not even going to be recognized. Nobody's even going to notice. Nobody's even going to appreciate, right? You got to be around the most perfect network for you to be able to get that, right? I haven't found it yet. It doesn't mean, right? I won't find it because I know it's out there, because you guys are out there, right? Because you're with me all the time. So I know it's out there, right? It's just a matter of, right? Just keep going. Just, right? Everything reveals itself in the end. Okay. Um, and there's another amazing human being who brought so many, myself included, great joy and so many laughs for so many years. I still miss Gilda, right? Saturday Night Live. I was not a big fan, and it was in my young adulthood that right? I loved all the actors, and they all became great big movie stars for the most part, didn't they? And that show, I think that show's still going on, isn't it? I hated gym. I was physically active, a dancer, singer, majorette, clarinist, etc. But middle school gym was torture for many reasons beyond my control. Yeah, gym class was a humiliating experience for me, right? Except for that one year when I had that English slash PE teacher take an interest in me. I actually got an A in PE. I was morbidly obese, and I was doing the balancing bar and gymnastics, and I was rocking it. Like I rocked it. But everybody thought I was going to break my back. They really did. And maybe I might have, but my own determination and my own belief that I could. And I remember that year I lost like 40 pounds that year, lost a lot of weight. I was looking really good. I was feeling really good. That year opened up. I actually made a friend that I was able to have in my life for quite a few years after high school. I went to a lot of elementary schools, but I only went to two high schools growing up. So, but the damage had been done up until then. So by the time I got to high school, I wasn't interested in making friends. All I wanted to do was get through high school as fast as I could, right? I was neither physically or emotionally into high school at all, right? I skipped out of school, skipped out of class for the most part, unless the class was super interesting. And right, my seniors year, I was all about drama, right? I love drama. I was going to be a famous New York makeup artist. And if you had seen my makeup in those senior years in high school, you would have a good giggle for sure, right? Okay. Andrew says, I hear you, Sharon. Those gym teachers were something else and got away with behavior that would get them fired now. And kids were allowed to be awful. I was never allowed to be awful. Right? I'm really surprised that I didn't become resentful for it, or I didn't become really, really awful when I was an adult. Even in these lessons, and I know I gotta spit out and spew some of that toxic garbage in me, I have to look for that, right? Because maybe it was just that understanding. Um, or was I there? Got away with behavior that would get them fired now, and kids were allowed to be awful. I lost my train of thought. I was moving somewheres, Andrew, with that. Okay, Sharon. Last night, a Muppet Family Christmas from 1987 made me smile for an hour straight. Those are the best, Sharon. I had my friend Lorraine come over for Christmas dinner yesterday, and me and her, we just laughed. We had such a good talk and stuff. And isn't that awesome for Christmas Day? Now, how was your visit with your family, Sharon? You seem to be in good cheer today. Did you have a lovely Christmas with your family? Sharon, I hope that you did. I hope that you did. Andrew, I saw an account of behavior from other kids that wasn't picked on, it was abuse. Grown ups go to jail for that kind of behavior. Oh my goodness. 100%. Oh, those kids in high school, some of them, but then that's the evolution, right? Because I can't see those kind of children being, well, I guess they could, because there was a while there the kids were getting away with getting guns into school and drugs into school, at least when I was in school. Or at least I didn't run with those crowds, because otherwise I don't think I even noticed any of that kind of stuff going on at all. But yeah, the kids could have been pretty bad. But it's what we learn from our parents, isn't it? And again, that thoughtfulness and that do unto others as you would have them done do unto you, like that's taught to us, isn't it? And that comes from our guardianships, right? And those people that we trust. But the thing is, right, everybody's living their own lives. Everybody is in survival mode, and right, people have children and they're still trying to live for themselves, and they're not understanding that they have a child now and that they have to live for that child, bring up that child as a good human being with some good influence, right? And sometimes that influence comes from sit down lessons. Sometimes they're lessons online. Sometimes it's just in the experience that a child has. And I look back at that child that I was, and I look at my child, that child in me, with a lot of compassion, with a lot of empathy, right? And in my movement now, I take that all into consideration, and I'm thoughtful towards myself, right? I have to stop myself sometimes for stumbling over myself to cater to others, right? But I still do it, right? And it pinches sometimes when you don't get the please and thank yous or the recognition of the hard job you did. But that's where we come in, right? Because that's where the lessons are trying to teach us, right? They're trying to teach us that just make sure that we are creating the best human beings we possibly can. And it starts with us. We can't be responsible for somebody else's actions. We just can't, but we beat ourselves up and we act like however anybody else is. That's gotta have been our fault, right? We got on their last nerve. Right? Well, I heard that lots of times. Um, I think the kids that I was in school with and the idea of them being parents, scary thoughts, right? But, I did terrible things too, right? When I was a teenager, and I was thoughtless also as a teenager. Maybe not intentionally, maybe it was out of my own limiting beliefs. But, those considerations can come at us at any time. And somebody can do a small kindness, like, Andrew, how many small kindnesses do you give in those worlds? And how many times are those small kindnesses even recognized, let alone acknowledged, right? All we can do is start with ourselves. And I'm not saying spoil ourselves and give ourselves everything we need, but in those thoughtfulness, right? How can we get our needs fulfilled, or at the very least not get ourselves into that point where we're going to throw a temper tantrum because so and so's got something and we don't, right? Oh, I haven't used that word in a long time. I wreath i wreath of the thought of time I was unkind. Not many of them, I hope, but people who were mean as a lifestyle, how do they live with themselves? I agree with that, but that's the thing. They're not even awoke to those ideas, right? They're taking the world by the balls. I was that person at one point. I didn't watch the litter. You would never catch me litter intentionally. You would never see me piece a candy wrapper on the ground or anything. And if I did, I got half a block away. That guilt would be so bad. I would turn around and go back, walk that half a block, even if it was 40 below zero, to pick up that scrap of paper that I know is going to take 10 years to biodegrade, right? But, again, it's all in our choices. And, sometimes we're not awake, and so we'll again, like I said, take the world by the balls, and we'll just treat everything like it belongs to us. treat everybody like slaves and servants and beneath us, right? And not give it consideration, even if that person was dirt poor, but they had the most beautiful set of manners. They read books every single day. They were highly intellect, but because of their social standing, right? Right? That they still get treated differently. I think the only thing we can do is be responsible for our own actions, right? I think I'm a true believer in being the evidence for others. So, I still do those kindnesses, right? I can't help it. I'm an empath, right? Right? But at the same time, I take notes and I'm not stumbling over myself. I'm not giving away everything. I'm not letting, right? Like that milkshake glass. I'm not letting somebody with a straw go and take all the goody stuff from all the corners and the bottom of the glass. All it's getting, right? It's all the overflow. All that thoughtfulness is just all the froth that's overflowing from the glasses. Oh, Nancy's here too. Oh my goodness. Right? Oh, isn't that the just most the heartbreaking thing, Nancy? When an adult tells you something like that. My mother told me that every single day from the time I could talk, right? And it's disheartening. It's cruel. It's extremely damaging because I'm still struggling with movement because of these conversations. And funny because I was talking about the lessons earlier, and I was had to Google narcopath. What a narcopath is, and a narcopath is a narcissist slash sociopath. And that's the narcissist who not only dictates to others how they move, how stupid they are, right? Right? I'm the smart person. I've got every single answer. Do as I say, not as I do. Right? But that sociopath who actually enjoys the pain of others, enjoys stirring that pot, enjoys keeping the empath, right? Right? Like Andrew said about the bullies and the kids that he couldn't possibly believe would be able to grow up to be good parents, right? And this is going to be such a huge problem in the coming decades. Like I just think it's going to be one of the very difficult things to deal with because, a narcopath, I didn't realize that it was half narcissist, half sociopath. I had to Google it and then I delved into a little bit of information, Sam Vatkin. I think he was the one who mentioned the word, and then I had to go and do a little bit of Googling on the topic. But it was something that I knew already because we have different ingredients, right? I had I had an empath for a father. I had a narcopath for a mother. And in my choices, I picked up traits. And it's not like my mother had all bad traits. My mother had she's on her own story. And as much as she got wrong, she got a lot of things right too. So I have to give credit there because I did pick up those lessons, but I only picked them up because I chose them, because I experienced them to be true. Right, but I picked up a lot of untruths along the way too. 100%. 100%. But that was really interesting. The comparison, conflicting beliefs, compartmentation, and putting everything on the shelves. Oh yeah, I took lots of notes. I was delving into it deep. I was making my list to see where I fell in there because I know that as much as I'm my father's daughter, I am my mother's daughter too. And so right? We were talking about the monkeys and the orangutans having babies, and then those babies having to be their own clan of monkeys because, right, the chimpanzees rejected the hybrid, right? And then the orangutans rejected the hybrid, but they rejected it because they had the traits of the opposite from them, right? I have traits that belong to my mother, good and bad, and I have traits that belong to my father, good and bad, right? And I have to remember this. Um, um, some things that I did notice, that sometimes when I use examples to people, I want people to feel good, right? And I'll praise somebody when they do a good job. But one thing I do notice I do, which is a bad trait, it's something that my mother did all the time. I would praise somebody's job by comparison to somebody else that wasn't doing their job, right? The way I thought they could or I thought they should. And so in that comparison game and giving praise, it's something that I took note today, and I said, "Oh, I do that, right?" So I do play that comparison game. Um I don't not absorbing perspectives that aren't for me. This came from this idea because my father was spiritual person, my mother was a religious person. So ideas ran kind of free in our family, and all as kids were able to make our own choices in that. And so I was listening and learning from a lot of different perspectives. And again, when we talk about um, being the best versions of ourselves, we are only in that guidance, right? And in that guardianship and in that programming. And I have to take a look, right? I hope I have a lot of my whatever, right? Tendencies and whatever comparisons that I have that are like with my mother. I hope they're the good ones. But right, I have to know if they're ones that are causing me problems, because that I would just like to right out the window if at all possible, right? But at the same time, as much as my dad was a sweet, kind, right, understanding, woke human being, super smart, right? He wasn't perfect either. And I picked up traits there. And I am grateful I picked up a lot of traits there. It's what makes it so I can sit here right now and have these kind of conversations and actually have a chance to do a little bit of course correcting in my life, right? Can you imagine? Oh, if I didn't have that input, if I didn't have that connection, that again, we could talk about trauma bonding, because I obviously trauma bonded with my father because he was my safe space, right? He was my safe space 100%, but we can go in that another time. It's getting late now, you guys, so we're going to call it a live tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in. I just want to finish up these comments here before we call it an end. Wish there was a way to prevent educators from being dream crushers. Well, there is, Sharon. It's getting mindset into the school system. Mindset is non-denominational. It's not directed at any right particular person. It's directed at everybody. It's directed in a way that everybody's got a free shot, and it also makes everybody accountable at the same time, because they teach lessons that make it so that the parents can't get away with some of this stuff, like my mother, right. I didn't talk to the counselors, I didn't talk to the teachers, because I knew if it got back to my mom, I was ground beef, right? But if you had mindset in the schools, in the school systems, and we could start building up the courage of the kids, start building up the understanding of the kids, if we could start getting the children to love themselves for however they are, right? To help them to be able to understand a little bit of that self help, right? Self help. Oh my goodness. If I had known what self help was when I was a kid, I'd be a genius. I would be, seriously. Right? But it is what it is. And right, we can't cry over spilt milk. All we can do is pick up where we can pick up and do the best that we can. Um yeah, those statistics, yeah, it is unfortunate, but it's part of what the world is moving towards, right? And again, if we can think of that thoughtfulness and we can move with values, right? We can move with values. We can eliminate. I truly believe that we can eliminate some of these ugly things, right? Because wow, tormenting a school librarian to where she quit her job. Like, seriously, I get that because I've had those experiences in jobs myself where, you're squeezed out. It's why I became meticulous in my attendance, in showing up, in learning everybody's part in that business so that when the hours were cut, right? When they had to let people go, they weren't going to let me go because I had everything down packed. I could do the job of three men easily in most of my job. And that's the truth. And that's not something to smile about too. That was really hard and that was really unfair that I had to keep a job by doing that, right? It was truly unfair and it was unkind in my part because I exhausted myself. I stressed myself. I demoralized myself and I allowed others to demoralize me too, right? Yeah, I've been learning, my mother was just a reflection of her own life and I have to understand, that's my mother's evolution. That's her evolution. She didn't know any better. And, when she had me, guaranteed she had some postpartum depression and she had some very scary experiences right before she got pregnant with me. So, I have to take into considerations how life impacts the people, right? How it twists them a little bit. And, when I talk about entangling the wires, it's exactly what I'm talking about. So we can learn to be more thoughtful of each other, more considerate of each other, more tolerant of each other, right? And we're moving in that directions in lots of ways, but we only pay attention to what we pay attention to, don't we? Okay. Oh my goodness, I remember Woodsy Owl. I remember that. I remember the orbits, the litter orbits that they put along the highways and stuff. Because my dad was big on country drives and stuff. It's where my passion for country drives comes from. But, these litter orbits were everywheres. And, in the 70s, we got really big on saving the environment, didn't we? There was a lot of, I'd like to teach the world to sing. There was like joy to the world. There was, uh, so much insight, and I have no idea why it stalled out. Well, I do know why it stalled out. It was because of the pushback in the end, right? And change, right? Those hippies are not hippies anymore, right? They all got buzz cuts and suits and right. Some of them, right? I am optimistic. Some of them stayed true to the people that they wanted to become, but I think for the most part, right, they're bouncing grandkids on their knees, aren't they? Okay, you guys, that's it for tonight. I am heading off. We'll be back tomorrow. It was nice of you guys to show up tonight. Oh my goodness. I love taking care of the environment, but again, you can only do the best that we can do individually in the moment. I haven't even started, you guys. I'm still putting all my garbage in the same container. I haven't even started recycling. Try, or I say I'm going to try, but it only happens when we put that energy behind it 100%. Nobody's perfect. I'm a work in progress 100%. That's a ceramic Christmas tree. Yes, it is, Sharon. That's a ceramic Christmas tree. I got this is my second year. I don't do Christmas. I got that tree. This is my second year using the ceramic Christmas tree. Pretty much my only ornament besides cat. No, you can't see it. I have a Scotty dog. I have a Scotty dog, Macintosh toffee. It's a candy here in a toffee candy here in Canada, and I have a Scotty dog for that. They're worth a fortune, Sharon. They're worth a fortune. I think this one here, I could probably get $100 for it. Right? People come into my store all the time looking for the ceramic Christmas trees. Yeah, 100%. It's I've never had one in the family. Our family has always had real Christmas trees. I don't think we even had fake Christmas trees ever in my family. Yeah, we like our real trees, but for me, I haven't really decorated my house for Christmas since I separated from my husband. But I made an effort, right? The ceramic Christmas tree. Okay, you guys, that's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. I hope everybody had an amazing Christmas. I hope everybody had some time for themselves, right? Because we know what family can do to us. And you know, I took today, and in all truth, I'll lift up my leg here right now because I'm dressed, but I'm wearing my Winnie the Pooh pajama pants. I haven't gotten out of them today, right? And I haven't done too much, just a little bit of piddling around, but for the most part, I've been in the lessons and I've been here with you. You guys have a great night, and we'll see each other tomorrow.